This is iPad mini 6, and while it may be very tiny, this thing is pretty damn mighty. Welcome to the review. So let's start with price. Base model iPad mini cost $499. The one that I have is $659. That's because I opted for the 256GB storage model, as I suggest you do the same if you do in fact decide to pick one of these up at the end of the video. I know that cost close to as much as the base model iPad Air, but it brings me to my first point, and that is the design. The design is brand new for this iPad mini 6. The days of the rounded corners and tiny camera are behind us, and now we have this brand new box-like design with a new camera, and in fact, with that, we have a new display as well. The iPad mini 6 has an 8.3-inch liquid retina display, so there's no more home button. With that, there's also no Face ID, but there is Touch ID on the top of the iPad. Now, an interesting design choice by Apple is if you move to the left, you actually see the volume up and volume down. Those are interchangeable. If you have the iPad facing towards the left side of you, the volume up is the top one and the volume down is the bottom one. If you have it the other way, the volume up is on the what was once bottom, and the volume down is what was once volume up. The new design has given us 4 speaker ports, even though this iPad mini only has 2 speakers. We have a smart connector on the side for the brand new Apple Pencil, which is a great welcome change. Gets rid of that whole lightning situation, which is now, it's just so much easier just to click it on, and then you're good to go. It charges by itself without even having to give it a second thought. For the first time on any iPad mini, we have USB Type-C. It's not Thunderbolt, but the fact it's USB Type-C allows a lot more functionality than years prior. You can plug in an external SD card or actually external storage. It may not be as fast, and you can't put it towards an extra display. However, there's Sidecar, but not only that, it just allows a lot more functionality to be used with your iPad. I've actually used it for, taking pictures. I could just plug in my SD card adapter and boom, the pictures are there. So it works out perfectly if you're on the go. It's great, especially because it's small. And speaking of versatility, let's talk about what's on the inside of the iPad. This iPad mini runs on the A15 Bionic chip, which happens to be the chip inside the brand new iPhone 14. And to be honest, it handles everything perfectly. You're not going to be doing massive Photoshop graphics, and you're not going to be editing 8K video on an iPad mini. The main reason you would pick one of these up is to do note-taking or have something wherever you go that's not super big and also not an iPhone. It's kind of that weird niche sweet spot. Also, in the iPad mini's trailer, airline pilots actually use the iPad mini because of software, so it works for them, and if you're in that category, the iPad mini is perfect. I don't use my iPad to edit videos. That's what I have my Mac mini for, so I don't use anything super crazy, but I can do light Photoshop, Lightroom, and take notes, move files, do the everyday task, and it works perfectly. There's no dip in performance. Not only that, but you can play some games, and it works just fine. I don't play the most graphically intensive games, but for the games that I do play, it works just fine. Also on the inside, as I mentioned at the beginning of the video, I have 256GB of storage. It's perfectly, and after 6 months of storage, I have blown past 64 gigs, but not close to 256. So we touched on it briefly in the specs section, but when we talk about the performance, it's fantastic. In all honesty, you're going to be getting an iPad mini to do daily tasks, watch content, take some notes, scan files, use it for some specific apps that, would benefit from using an iPad mini. But at the end of the day, you're not going to be editing movies, videos, large motion graphics. The iPad is just a tablet. The iPad mini is just a portable, high-performance tablet. There's really no other way to put it. And everything that I've used it for the past 6 months, it's never bogged down once. It's fantastic. So speaking of performance, let's talk about the brand new cameras. The camera on the back has an f1.8 aperture, which means it lets in a lot of light. And to be honest, the pictures you can take on this are pretty good. Now, it's not iPhone 14 quality or, DSLR quality, but, considering the pictures you would typically take on a tiny tablet that you would take around just to take notes and scan documents, it's a great camera. Here are a couple shots, and it's, great. If you take it to the beach, you can take a couple pictures. You can take pictures, and it comes out really well. The back camera has the capability of doing 4K at 60 frames a second, which is always a nice touch, and the front camera can do 1080p at 60 FPS. Now, the front camera actually has center stage, so if you're on a phone call or a Zoom call, it can track your head, which is actually pretty cool because you can be walking around the room and just talking and it follows you. So that's a really nice, cool feature. So the biggest question is, who is this for and should you get one? Who is it for? Well, if you're gonna be going around every day, taking notes, scanning documents, watching some YouTube, watching a couple movies, and you want that small form factor that's not huge, I mean, the iPad mini is perfect. It's bigger than your phone, so it's a little bit more comfortable to hold, and you can watch it for a long time. If you get the folio case, you can stand it up, and you can draw a little bit, you can take notes. I mean, there's only so much you can do with an iPad, but for me personally, has fit all the requirements that I use. I could have gone with an iPad Air or iPad Pro 11-inch, but the iPad mini was mini, and the form factor really sold me in itself because it's smaller and a little bit more portable. Now, yes, do I lose out on some performance, and yes, do I lose out on a few more inches of screen real estate? I do. But honestly, for me, it really hasn't bothered me. I don't do a lot of typing on my keyboard because I just use my MacBook. I don't edit because I use my Mac. So for me, the iPad fits perfectly in my lineup. If you already have a laptop and a computer or a laptop and a phone, the iPad mini is great for you because you can just do things that you don't want to do on your iPhone or don't want to do on your Mac on your iPad. You don't take notes on a MacBook or a phone, you can do it on your iPad mini. It's fit that sweet spot for me. Now, I know the use case won't be the same for everybody. Now, the reason you shouldn't get one is because, well, to be honest, power and screen size. If you want something that does a lot of multitasking with a keyboard like the iPad Pros or the iPad Air, go for it by all means, because it will fit your use case better than it would fit mine. And if you want more power, well, of course, go with the brand new M2 iPad Pros, the most powerful iPad out there. So, at the end of the day, it does come down to what you use most. Think about your daily routine. Do you take notes? Does portability matter to you? And does battery life matter to you? And does power matter to you? If you want more power, more battery life, and a bigger screen to do better multitasking, go with the iPad Pro or the iPad Air. But if you want something that's a little bit more portable, has great battery life, but it's just not as big, then go for the iPad mini. Because at the end of the day, the iPad mini for me has been amazing. It does everything that an iPad's supposed to do, and that I need it to do, so it works great for me. And at the end of the day, you know yourself best. So if you need the power, go for a different iPad. But if you want the portability and functionality of the iPad mini, definitely go for it. But for me, my iPad mini works just fine. So with that all being said, thank you so much for watching. If you did enjoy, make sure to hit that like button. And if you really enjoyed it, then make sure to subscribe. Be sure to check out the links down below and come hang out with me on Instagram. And with that all being said, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.